Have you ever had a thought so dark that you were instantly ashamed of yourself for ever thinking it? Have you had these terrible thoughts, but still deep down know you're never going to act on them? They're just things that come into your head. Should you punish yourself for having these terrible thoughts, or dark thoughts, as I call them? Welcome to Be a Better Person. Today's topic I want to talk about is dark thoughts. So I really thought about doing this because, again, when I think about some of the dark thoughts I've had, I'm very ashamed. But I thought that maybe by having this conversation and talking about it, that people will not feel so alone when they have their dark thoughts. The big thing about dark thoughts is, should you feel ashamed? Or is it just normal human emotion to do that? So again, this is all my thoughts, my ideas, my beliefs, things I've thought of. I'm not saying that they're right or they're wrong. Not saying that it works for you. Not saying that it's something that maybe you're never going to forgive yourself for. But I think that you should. I think that we're only human beings. We know that we're going to have these bad thoughts. Just let's not act on these dark thoughts. So I want to clarify first that the majority of my dark thoughts probably were between 14 and 24 years old. I think mainly it's because I think we are all aware that teenage years are very difficult. We go through a lot of emotions. We have the hormones. We want to fit in. We want to be accepted. And then I think when you get to your late teens, early 20s, once you've left high school, once you've possibly moved out from your parents, you start just trying to figure out life. You're trying to say, well, how do I balance kids, family, being on my own, paying bills, making a living, doing all those things, having a spouse, starting a family, money, bills. All of those things, I think, are big things that make you feel stressed, make you feel pressured. I've had these dark thoughts at every age. Just the majority of kind of came through that time frame, and I think it's because of those things that I just discussed. Mainly, the majority of these is when I felt trapped, I felt used, unappreciated, rejected. Those things have kind of been the main focus of why I've had these dark thoughts. And there's a lot of them that I've still felt ashamed for even having them. And again, I think everybody has those. It's the main thing as long as you're not acting on them. So violence towards others possibly is a dark thought. Not being on this planet anymore is another one. Finding ways to hurt people the way that you feel that you were hurt is another one. And so I think that they mainly come out when you're in an overly emotional state. And I try to look at, why am I having this dark thought? Do others have these dark thoughts? And again, it's usually because I'm in a super, super emotional place in my life, or something has happened to me recently where I've felt these highlighted emotions. They become super intense. Again, there's never been one of these thoughts that I've had that I ever seriously thought that I would act on. We'll talk about something in a little bit that one of them that I've had multiple times throughout my life, and it's just out of a curiosity thing. Do we all have dark thoughts? Or are there people who are happy, cheery, and sunshiny all the time throughout their whole life? I don't think that's the case, but I don't know. Why don't you tell me? Maybe you're one of those people who've felt that way, and it might be something that I'll be like, oh, geez, yeah, maybe some people can. How do you do it if that is the case? I surely would like to know. Again, now that I'm much, much older, it's very rare that I have any type of dark thoughts anymore. I'm pretty much happy with who I am, happy with my life, and I'm just continuously trying to make changes and make myself a better person every day and try to grow and be better today than I was yesterday. And now, are there any thoughts that you've had that you've seriously considered, these dark thoughts that you've really considered on acting on? Maybe you pulled the trigger. Are there some possibly that you actually did act on? That's another thing. There's none of the dark thoughts that I've had that I've actually acted on. Thank goodness. Not that I've been a clean and pure person in my life, but none of these things were because of dark thoughts that were malicious that I've had. I've done some things, but it was just because I thought it was fun, or because I got peer pressured, or I didn't think it all the way through before it happened. Is there a way that you can avoid having dark thoughts? Or is it just human nature that we're always going to have them? Two of the biggest things that relieved me about my dark thoughts is I've had some conversations with close friends about these things, and made me realize that I wasn't alone in having these dark thoughts. Well, I didn't probably necessarily always getting to details when I've had these conversations with my friends. I've just asked in general about some dark thoughts, because again, you feel ashamed. I mean, still, every single one I've ever had, I felt ashamed after I had the dark thoughts. But maybe it's because did I really contemplate following through with them? So let's talk a couple of things that I've done or thought, didn't do, thought. So the one I was talking about earlier is just a scenario, and it's mainly not that I wanted to hurt anybody, but it is still bad. It was a scenario about robbing some banks in a very small town because of how it's located, and they had 3 different banks, and how I thought that I could do it to get away with it. Again, is this a dark thought? Yes, because it's breaking the law. Number 2, would I have ever acted on it, or did I ever act on it? No, I didn't, but I just said, I think this is a plan. I mean, I think you watch Hollywood movies and you see things and you're just like, I think I could get away with that. So it's just something, and I've relived this probably about 3 or 4 times in my life, just rethinking about it and saying, yes, I think I could get away with it. And I'm not going to explain what the plan was or what the process. It's just that I had a dark thought about doing something illegal that could have really changed my life. Because you got to remember, if you ever act on these dark thoughts, there's consequences to them, and there's implications that go on for your whole rest of your life that could do that if you follow through with these dark thoughts. So another one, and again, I don't think my neighbors were aware, but we ended up getting some new neighbors, and they had these extremely yippy yappy dogs. Bark, 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 bark. But they only did it, they had a doggy door, I think, and there was fenced so they could come out and go in whenever they wanted. When they would leave, these dogs would come out and bark incessantly. I mean, literally one time I timed, and I think it was like an hour and a half of straight barking. And so, of course, my dark thought was, I need to eliminate these dogs. I'm a person who doesn't like a lot of, I don't like to cause problems. So I never went. And again, I don't think that the neighbors were even aware, because the funny thing is, these dogs knew the neighbor's car, the sound of it. Like, when it would get within 2 blocks, they would stop barking. So when the neighbors pulled in, there was no barking going on. And it would never happen when either of the adults, parents, left the house, but they would do it if a child was there. It was just a really bizarre thing. And it wasn't overly, it's like every day, hours and hours and hours of this. Plus I went to work and didn't hear a lot of it. And they didn't go away a lot. But again, it was a thought that I had about, I will find a way to eliminate these animals. And it's not their fault, but it was a dark thought. And I never did. The dogs, as far as I know, still remain alive today. So those are just a couple little examples of some dark thoughts that I've had. One really terrible, one could have been terrible if I would have gotten caught. Do you ever have dark thoughts? Have you ever acted on them, even if maybe it's just a smaller dark thought? Do you feel ashamed after having them? This is a topic that I really would hope that I could learn a lot more about just from human nature. But again, we are ashamed to mention everything. Like, I have some that are way worse than the couple that I said. But again, I'm still ashamed to this day of having them. But maybe it's something we should talk about, especially if they're never acted on. I'm sure there are people who've had dark thoughts that have acted on them and led to some dire consequences. So what stops one person from following through with their dark thoughts and another person from just realizing that they're dark thoughts? More stuff that I would just like to have some idea. Anyways, remember, your smile makes me smile. Be kind, be grateful, be helpful. And until next time, have a beautiful day.